What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Not So Stupid Podcast. Today, we're going to be breaking down 11 calorie saving tricks or hacks that are going to help you stay in a calorie deficit or manage your calorie intake to the point where dieting becomes so much easier. Because as you heard on the previous podcast episode or two podcast episodes ago, the main thing that you need to do to lose weight is be in a calorie deficit. And the two things you need to manipulate when it comes to making a calorie deficit is either your activity, so how many calories you burn, or your intake, so how many calories you're eating. We can talk about activity in a different one. I think I covered most of the calorie burning hacks in one of my metabolism episodes in an earlier podcast, but today we're going to be talking about different ways to help manage your calorie intake and really easy things that you can do to save some calories in places that you didn't even know were causing you to eat extra calories. These simple changes could lead to pretty big results, and I've seen it happen with lots of my clients over the years. That you do these simple little things, it makes it easy to stick to your calorie deficit, it makes it easy to stick to your diet, and it's still rather enjoyable to eat the foods that you like. So it's not a huge game changer in that regard. So we're going to start breaking these down one by one, explaining maybe why they work for certain ones and how you can apply it to your life on a daily basis. So the first one is going to be using smaller plates or smaller cups. So this one is, at first glance, sounds kind of weird, but if you're like me, I'm someone that has to finish everything that's on this plate. I always clean the plate. If I have a plate of rice, I'm eating each little rice grain that's on there. That's just how I like to eat, and I don't like to waste any kind of food. So that's my personal preference. To avoid overeating on any certain foods, I need to make sure I'm choosing the right plate. So if I have a really big plate, I'm obviously going to fill that up to what the plate can hold, and then finish it up as much as I can. That's just how humans eat. We eat with our eyes. I'm sure you've heard that expression before. So when you use a smaller plate, you're already reducing the amount of calories that you're going to be eating. And if you eat the plate to where there's nothing left on the plate, you are going to be satisfied. You'll have accomplished your meal for the day. You hit your goal of finishing what was on the plate, but you'll have eaten less just because the plate is smaller and there's less food on it. So that's one really easy way to hack calories to be lower, is just using smaller serving utensils. So smaller plates, smaller cups if you're drinking a calorie-filled drink. But another way you can save calories on that note right now is opting for water or 0-calorie drinks. So obviously we know water is really important. You need to stay hydrated to lose weight, but choosing that over soda, choosing that over juice, over a smoothie, even like other healthy drinks, smoothies are quote unquote healthy because they're filled with fruit and vegetables and micronutrients, but a lot of smoothies can be hundreds of calories at a time, depending on the size of them. I know for a long time, I was drinking naked juice. This was back in college, but I was drinking naked juices almost every day, and an 8 fluid ounce naked juice is like 400 calories. So if your daily intake is 1600 calories, that one juice, 8 ounces, it's not even a full average sized water bottle, it's 8 ounces, is taking up a quarter of your calories for the day. If you just drank water and then ate those fruits, ate those vegetables instead, you would feel more full throughout the day and have saved yourself at least 200-300 calories. So opting for 0-calorie drinks, opting for 0-calorie substitutions. So this goes beyond drinks too. So if you have salad dressings and sauces and those kind of things, they have a lot of 0-calorie options for those right now. So it takes one quick scroll through Amazon, going to your grocery store and looking at all the different options. There are so many different barbecue sauces that are 10 calories or less per serving, salad dressings that are 10 calories or less. There's a lot of 0-calorie ones as well. And again, obviously 0-calorie drinks. Those are really common, diet sodas and things of the like. All of those, if you just substitute what you would normally drink or normally consume with those sides for 0-calorie dressings, 0-calorie sauces, you're saving yourself possibly hundreds of calories if you have that multiple times a day, depending on how generous you are with those things. But on that topic, if you tried 0-calorie dressings and some 0-calorie sauces and they just didn't do it for you, something you can do is, and you could do this at a restaurant or at home, is ask for those things on the side or serve those things on the side for yourself. So sauces, dressings, cheese, have those come if you're ordering on the side. if you're making this yourself, put it on the side as well. You'll know exactly how much it is, as opposed to just pouring it all over and just guesstimating what that's going to look like. That's always one of the most common measuring errors when it comes to tracking people's food, tracking your calories, is how much dressing you use. The serving sizes are always a lot smaller than you think they are on the labels. So, you know, one really common thing that I see is coffee creamers. The generic Starbucks coffee creamers that people buy from the grocery store and use it at their home. A 1 tablespoon serving is like 30-40 calories. 1 tablespoon is very, very small, but most people will just pour it down all the way into the drink until the coffee changes colors, and that could be hundreds of calories of coffee creamer right there. So that's just one example. Obviously, again, like just like with dressing, if you're just pouring salad dressing all over your food, or you're just drowning your food in barbecue sauce or whatever kind of sauce you're using, you're probably doing way more than what the serving size is, and likely are eating 3, 4, 5, maybe even 7 times as much calories as you think you're eating. So just having those things on the side and then dipping the food you're eating into it will save you a lot of calories and still have it taste just as good. So this works really well with salad in particular, where if you take your salad, put some on your fork, dip it in the dressing, you're still getting salad dressing with every bite. You're probably getting more dressing with every bite than you would flavor-wise if you just poured it on top of everything. And you're using less dressing. So now you're managing your intake in that way. So just having those things be on the side is a really easy way to help save your calories. Again, super simple hack. It just takes asking one question at a restaurant or preparing it differently at home for your lunch at work or wherever you're going to have lunch or dinner. Next thing. So that was 4 so far, I think. No, 3. That was 3. So now the 4th one is portioning out your snacks in advance. So if you're, again, this is like me, but I know a lot of my clients have this thing where they snack while at work, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue comes, though, when you over snack and you're eating too much of that food. So if you don't have pre-portioned snacks ahead of time and you just bring out the entire container, it's going to be really hard to stop yourself from eating the whole container. This is very similar to what we talked about in the first one, using smaller plates. You're just going to eat what's there. You're just going to eat what's available to you because it's convenient, because a lot of times if you're working, you're not really thinking about it either. And you just reach for it continuously and don't really think about stopping yourself. Not that you don't want to stop yourself, or not that you can't stop yourself, but you're kind of distracted while you're snacking. So instead of falling into that and regretting it in advance, or regretting it later on, prep it in advance. Have a preset amount in a bowl or in a smaller container or in a Ziploc bag, whatever you want to do, depending on what kind of snack it is and how you want to portion it out. But just portion it out in advance and give yourself that limit, give yourself that allocated calorie limit for the day, for while you're working. They do have lots of 100-calorie or fun-size snack packs for most of the most common snacks. You know, almonds, yogurts, candies, even trail mixes, things like that. They have smaller pre-serving sized packs that you can buy at the store most of the time. Using those instead of just using the giant container and having it on your side will save you a lot of calories without you even realizing it, and still give you that little ability to snack or chew on something while you're working if you like doing that. And of course, another thing you could do is just chew gum instead. So if you just like chewing on something, chewing on gum instead will help you with that. So that's another thing that you can do. And on that note of distracted eating, avoiding distracted eating is another helpful thing. So this is beyond snacking. This is usually when you are having a meal, you're probably on your phone scrolling through something, watching TV, doing other stuff, reading some other third thing, and you're not aware of what you're eating. You're not presently eating and enjoying your food. There's an old Zen proverb that says, very simply, when eating, eat. When walking, walk. And basically doing the thing that you're meant to be doing, and only that thing. Really focusing on what you're doing. Being mindful and present for what you're doing. Because when you are in tune with the chewing, with feeling the flavors of your mouth, with swallowing and having your stomach fill up, you'll find that you're able to get full faster, or you get full sooner than you realize because you're not as distracted. And you'll be able to enjoy the food more while you're mindful, so you won't need to overindulge or do or eat more than you need to eat. So that's a really simple thing that you can do, is just avoid distracted eating, particularly with bigger meals. But if you avoid unnecessary distracted eating, with sitting down watching Netflix at home, instead of bringing a bag of chips, just either pre-portion the snack like we talked about earlier, or just watch the movie and enjoy the movie, and then you can eat at a later time. Just having mindfulness around the things that you're doing and not being pulled in so many directions that you lose track of what you're actually doing. That's the most important thing, being mindful and not being distracted on what's happening. And on that note, when you are eating undistracted and more mindfully, eat until you're 80% full. So this is the next hack, next tip, is eating until you're 80% full. There is a delayed signal from your stomach to your mind to let you know when you're full. And a lot of times, if you're eating way too fast, you'll end up feeling really full a few minutes later without even realizing it happened. So more often than not, if you slow down your eating and you don't feel 100% full, you feel content, aiming for contentment, not indulgence. You feel content with how much you ate, and you save, you don't finish the meal all the way through. You just save yourself those 20 calories. You leave it for another day, for another snack, for another meal the next day. You're saving calories in that regard. So you're just being more in tune with your body. And when you feel yourself being more full, but not 100% full, you don't need to be 100% full. In fact, most of the time when you are 100% full, you're going to be moving a lot slower physically and mentally. So instead, save your body the stress of digesting all that extra food, and save yourself the stress of eating those extra calories in hindsight, and wait till you're just 80% full and enjoy up to that point. And that'll save you a lot of headache. So now that's about half of the things there. And that's basically, a lot of that is just preparation and setting things up before you're even eating anything, right? So using smaller plates, avoiding distracted eating, portioning out your snacks, having 0 calorie substitute or low calorie substitutes for your drinks and sauces, having your sauces and dressings on the side. Just the way you prep what you're about to eat can make the biggest difference in how many calories you're going to consume without changing anything. It just starts with having that forethought to prepare it in advance. Now, on that note of forethought and preparing things in advance, opting for simpler dishes is always going to be a big plus as well. And what I mean by simpler dishes is things that are fewer ingredients and they're easy to segment. So as opposed to having a giant mix of things as a salad, or just one giant sandwich that has everything all together, having a plate set up and you have a protein on your plate, you have some color on your plate, whether that's vegetables or fruit, and then having a food on there that is a carb source or a fat source. Each of these are 1-2 ingredient things that you put together, and because they're so simple, they're going to be lower calories as opposed to different. I can't even think of a food right now for some reason, but as opposed to something else you might order that can be a mix of 17 different things. It's not only hard to track, but also the amount of food that takes up that space, the amount of calories, the amount of food the amount of calories that food has is so much higher for the same amount of space that a simpler food might have. So it's very calorically dense for a low food volume, and that's not going to keep you full. We want more food to use to your advantage to help you get full faster. So using simpler ingredients makes it easier to over consume extra calories that you wouldn't even be aware of or have no control over. And then when you opt for simpler dishes, you have those 1 to 2, 3 ingredient foods on your plate set up and they're easily segmented. Eating the protein and the colored food first, so eating your proteins and eating your fiber first, essentially, because fruits and vegetables are primarily going to have a good amount of fiber. I shouldn't say primarily, but they will be made up of fiber, I should say. Eating those foods first will help regulate your appetite. So eating protein and eating fiber, those are very satiating nutrients. And having those first is going to help make it easier for you to get full faster and easier to maintain that 80% fullness mark that you want to aim for with your eating. So anytime you have those simpler dishes set up, opt for eating those protein foods and fiber foods first before going to the carb or fat-based foods. So that way your appetite is managed and you're still getting the main nutrients that most people are under eating in the first place. These are going to be your prime nutrients anyway. So why not prioritize them in the order that you're eating so that you are, not only managing your intake, but also feeling better for the rest of the day as well. So again, these are all really simple little things that you can change the order of which you eat, the type of plating that you use, how you organize your meal, the dishware that you use. All of those are really simple changes, really simple ops that can make all the difference, especially if you combine them all together. But before I finish and continue, I should say, don't feel the need to combine all these together. I would honestly say if you make one of these switches, be consistent with it, and are happy with how well you do with it for 2 weeks, then you could add another one. You don't need to do all 11 of these all at once. Just see what works best for you. See what you probably could benefit the most from, or is easiest for you to do, and then do that consistently. And once you do that consistently, then you can choose something else from this list. But going forward with that, the next one is eating out less frequently, which also means eating home-cooked meals more frequently. And the reason this is important is because a lot of times when you are eating out, there's going to be a lot of variability with the food that you're eating. Different people are going to be preparing the meals. Different people are going to be, especially if you go to different locations for the same restaurants, you're not going to have 2 meals that are exactly the same amount of calories. In fact, a study done just 4 or 5 years ago on dining food, so chain restaurants and non-chain restaurants, locally owned restaurants, found that the average meal is about 1,200 calories. And there is a 600 to 700 calorie variability in from plate to plate on average. So the same person, or the 2 people, can order the same exact plate, and one can be 600 calories more than the other one, even though it's the same exact thing. Just because more often than not, there's going to be a difference in plating and serving it and changing the how they scoop it and what ingredients they use. It's just like there's not as much there's not as much care to making sure everything's exactly perfect for each certain person in terms of calories. They do it in terms of quality and in terms of the portion sizes. But a lot of times, again, you're going to have variability between dish to dish. Even the same exact dishes can vary in calories greatly. And if you're eating out multiple times a week, you're possibly consuming so many extra calories multiple times a week that could be avoided when you prep your own food at home, when you cook your own food at home, because you know what's going into your food. You know that you measured out this much olive oil and that's how much is going in there, and you're not overdoing it. As opposed to someone that might be new in the kitchen, they're very generous with their olive oil and they just throw it all on there. That's an extra 300 calories without them even knowing about it. It's a very simple things that when you put more control into it, you get more control over the food that you put into your mouth. You have more control and less chance of eating more calories by accident. And that's usually the hardest part for people to stick to something, is all these hidden calories that you're eating on accident that could have been avoided with a little extra prep work. So eating out less frequently, eating more home, and at the same token, eating more home-cooked meals more frequently will help a lot with that. Because again, if there's 600 calorie variability with each meal that you eat, and you eat 6-7 meals a week taken out from restaurants, that is, rough math, like 3,600 possible extra calories. And the generic number for a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So if you're eating an extra 3,600 calories, you're essentially gonna gain an extra pound of fat if everything else is consistent, if your activity is consistent and all the other calories you eat are consistent. So that's just from eating 6 extra restaurant meals a week. Obviously not something you want. I don't think I would want that. So don't put yourself in that position to go a few weeks of doing that and then look back and say, damn, what the hell happened? I thought I was counting my calories. Well, this is why it happened. And now going beyond that and looking at different cooking techniques for your home cooked meals, you want to opt for low-fat cooking techniques, because when you're cooking and in restaurant cooking, the secret thing that leads to a lot of extra calories is the fat. So all the extra oils, regardless of what type of oil they're using, they or you are using, the oils are usually the secret calorie killer, because each gram of fat is 9 calories, and you put an extra 5 grams of fat, that's an extra 50 calories. You do that multiple times for each meal, that's hundreds of calories extra in the day. So opting for low-fat cooking techniques like baking, broiling, air frying, or sauteing, as opposed to deep fried foods, regular fried food, pan fried foods, those options will save you a lot of calories in the long run and the short run. So eating out less frequently, eating home more frequently, and opting for low-fat cooking techniques as well. And this obviously is helpful for when you eat out as well, opting for low-fat cooking techniques or cooked foods. Low-fat style cooked foods will help save you a lot of calories and probably mitigate the risk that you would get from having a fried food instead. And the last technique, if you've been keeping up, that was 10. The last technique, this is the most helpful for mindless snacking and for avoiding messing up at social events, avoiding overeating at social events or parties or special occasions, is asking yourself the simple question, how bad do I want this food? So when you're looking to snack on something, when you're looking to treat yourself to something, I will never say restrict yourself and avoid having it entirely, depending on the circumstance. What I will say is make sure you actually want that food. How bad do you actually want that food? Do you want it to the point that nothing else that you can eat, nothing else that you can substitute will satisfy you? So for instance, if you want ice cream, is a protein ice cream not going to cut it? Are you going to actually want this particular brand of ice cream that you've loved since you were little and nothing else can replace that? That means this is a hell yes. I want this food and nothing else can replace this food. Have that food at a reasonable serving size. Have that food with good moderation. But if you don't feel that strongly about a food, if you just want it because it's there and you kind of just, it's there, I kind of want to have it, let me have it, that's a no. You don't want to have that food. So asking yourself, how bad do I want this food? And if you really, really want it, if it's a hell yes, then have it. But if it's anything else but a hell yes, it's a no. Avoid having that. So very straightforward question to ask yourself. And again, this is most helpful to avoid mindless eating. This is most helpful for different social outings, different kind of events that you could attend. Is this something I really want right now and I consciously want it, whether I see it in front of me or not? Then that's a hell yes. If not, any other answer is a no. You don't actually want it that bad. You likely want it because it's there. You likely want it because of an old habit that you like to combine flavors with. Whatever the reason, you actually don't want it because of that one thing. So those are 11 calorie hacks. I'm going to go through them one by one more time just to have it as a short, succinct list. So using smaller plates and smaller cups, opting for water or 0 calorie substitutes, portioning out your snacks in advance, avoiding distracted eating, ordering or serving your sauce, dressings, and cheese on the side and then dipping it if you want to use those, eating until you're 80% full, opting for simpler dishes, eating protein and fiber first from your plate, eating out less frequently, opting for low-fat cooking methods, and hell yes or a no. It's either a hell yes or it's a no. And this is, I guess this could be a bonus one. This is a phrase I like to use with a lot of my clients that struggle with emotional eating or struggle with overeating in general. And this is a Zen proverb. It wasn't actually intended for food initially. I heard this the first time from Alan Watts in one of his lectures that I was listening to. And it's simply this phrase that says, enough is as good as a feast. Eating until you feel content is just as good as overindulging. You can enjoy the food that you're having. You can enjoy the food that you're consuming at a reasonable portion without overdoing it. You can love the taste, the texture, the feeling that you get from eating that food without having 17 servings of it. You don't need that. You can enjoy it just as much from one serving. Enough is as good as a feast. So that is closing remark on that regard. Thank you everyone so much for listening. If you found value in this, please rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe so you can always be up to date when new episodes release. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.